Today, I have the privilege of interviewing JW Oliver. He's the managing partner of ZimWorX. JW is a successful entrepreneur, visionary, and philanthropist. And I'm so excited today to be bringing this discussion to you. There's so much to give, so many nuggets to learn from. Enjoy. JW, tell me a bit about yourself. Who is JW Oliver?
Woo! I think I am just a very simple person from, some pretty simple means. Kind of going back, I think it's important to understand, a lot of people when you're in business for yourself, they tend to believe that, oh, you must have come from a fancy place or a lot of money or had wealth. But I was fortunate really to come from a very strong Christian family. My mother raised us with very strong Christian values. A single mother. My father and mother divorced when I was 5. I had 3 older sisters, so it was really quite a struggle growing up. It was we were very much below the poverty line, and my mother worked a job to take care of us. As you can imagine, kids from the age of 5 to 15. There was 4 of us, and it was quite difficult. But fortunately, because of family, my grandparents, my aunts, uncles, cousins, we were all close knit, and so we were able to support each other, and that's probably the backbone or the bedrock of making me where I'm at today.
That's amazing. So you would say family has really impacted your journey as an entrepreneur?
Oh yeah. I think growing up where you were in an environment or where you were in a place where you saw a lot of broken homes, including my own, where you saw a lot of dysfunction in families. I always remember thinking that I was scared to be broke the rest of my life. I just was like, I don't want to do this.
That's amazing. And you are quite the visionary. Now you're the managing partner of one of the biggest outsourcing companies in Zimbabwe. And you started off with 90 members in 2018, and now we're looking at 500 at the end of February 2022. So how did you find yourself in Zimbabwe, of all countries?
Yeah, well, 5 years ago, maybe 6 years ago, if you asked me to take a globe and spin it and pinpoint Zimbabwe, I probably could have got Africa correct, the continent, but I don't know if I could have pinpointed exactly where it was. But it's quite an interesting story, and I would say most importantly is realize sometimes God puts a vision or an opportunity in front of you. I was speaking to a young gentleman that works with us this morning, a young 23-year-old that's on our team, and he has great vision and ideas. But I said, there may be doors that open up that may not seem it's the right one, but God's opened it, so you got to be careful. And the story actually was a very good friend of mine, Carrie Casey, ran the National Center for Fathering, the fathers.com organization. And Carrie and I are good friends today. We serve on a board today, Global Action. But at that time, he was asking me to come to a marriage retreat. It's called Rendezvous. And he said, JW, you got to come. Well, I think 3 years I said no. And I kept saying no. And finally, Carrie literally called me on the phone one day and he goes, JW, you're going. And I went, oh, okay. Well, I guess I'm going then, right? And I said, all right, I'll go. And I think that was God's intervention at that point to open a door for my wife and I to go down to a marriage retreat. And it was on a beautiful island in the Caribbean. And it's their annual fundraiser, but it was a wonderful retreat. Keep in mind, I've been in the dental equipment business since 1986.
Wow.
Still have that business. So we're 36 years into it, and I'm just 37. So I was 1 when I started that business. So but
I'm sure you were
just a baby. It was birthday. When I was birthed, the idea was birth. But we came through, and I went to this marriage retreat called Rendezvous.
okay.
And I remember we were checking in, and I met now my current partner, Ken, and he was at the reception, and he had this cool British accent, and he said, hey, how long y'all here for? I said, well, we're here for the marriage retreat, and then we're going to stay 1 extra day. And he said, well, we should have dinner. So my wife and he and his wife, I call her PJ for Princess Joanna, and so we actually came together and had dinner one night, and it wasn't anything significant. It was just that we met for dinner. Nothing was talked about. This was in 2015, September of 2015 to be specific. And I don't know, 4 or 5 months later, they called and said, "Gosh, we should get together." We got together in Europe, spent a nice week together just on holiday. And he says to me, "Hey, we should go into business together." And I said,
Amazing.
"Doing what?" And he said, "I don't know, but we have these amazing people in Zimbabwe, and they're just passionate. They're well educated. They speak fantastic, like you speak." She is from Zimbabwe, and
Yes,
this
I
is how
am.
they all speak.
Yes, we
And,
do.
and he says to me, "We should start a business." And I said, "That's the nuttiest thing I've ever heard, but whatever." And so we started researching a little bit and realized there was an opportunity to do what we really call insourcing now, because we feel our team members are part of your team as an organization. And so I sampled it with 2 or 3 employees in my actually two in my dental equipment company. I actually remember it was Heidi and Tafadzwa, and they started. We grew that to a whopping 5, I believe, and we sectioned off a little part of Joyner City, which was, I mean, we were probably occupying 100 square meters or 1,000 square feet, and we were dreaming big. We put 50 desks in, and we had about 5 people working. That grew with a couple of other companies to 9, as you mentioned, and that was 9 people in February of 2018, so 4 years ago. And that's when we realized we had an opportunity, which became Support DDS, which is our largest channel. We do stuff in the real estate through Support Realty, Support CPA through accountants. We support ministries through nonprofits. We've got a number of nonprofits that we work with. But I guess what's amazing, Roy, I believe it was Roy Disney said about Walt Disney, or vice versa. He said this all started with a mouse. And you think about it, Disney started with a mouse, and look what it is today. Not that we're Disney. I don't want to put that in my mouth, but or in somebody's thoughts. But we do see a vision. Our vision is to employ 20,000 people by the year 2032. So we see that now. We see it's possible. As you mentioned, we're a little over 500 now, and we've grown quite rapidly, mostly in the last 18 months.
That's incredible. I think I've picked up several lessons from what you've said. It wasn't a chance encounter. I think the 3 years that you said no, I'm not going, no, I'm not going, no, I'm not going, and then you decided to go. You met one person at the right place at the right time, and now you've impacted more than 1,000 lives. And it's not just the employees or team members whose lives are being impacted, but it's their families, it's the ministries. I know ZimWorX has a policy of 51% goes to ministries, which is just incredible. Where did this idea of 51% should go to ministries come from?
Yeah, and I think going back a bit, as what you said, sometimes God does open a door for us, or give us a vision, or give us an idea, but we have to step through that door too, right? A lot of people say, "Oh Lord, bless me. Oh Lord, favor me," but they're not listening to what God is doing all around them to lead them in this direction, to open this door. And so, we have to do our part too. We've got to open the door. We've got to step through it. The 51% actually, now keep in mind, another interesting part of this is I'm the managing partner, but I live in Dallas, Texas. So it should have been the person from Zimbabwe, but it's worked out beautiful. I love being here. So that's the interesting part of why we're here. And we can talk more about the wonderful people here. But the 51%, as we were sitting around, it was my wife and I, and Ken and his wife, and we said, "Hey, let's let God be the controlling partner in our business." So we actually wrote it, signed off on it. It's in our bylaws that we said we're going to give 51% to various ministries. And no, we don't inflate salaries, so there's no profits. We're quite aggressive with the ministries we support.
Okay.
Around the world as well.
And you mentioned ministries around the world. Which countries are these ministries in?
Oh, wow. Well, we're doing a lot in Zimbabwe. Interesting, we met with our pastoral team, which we surely will talk about, that we have an internal pastoral team. And we're doing a number of initiatives in Zimbabwe. I literally just got back from the Rugari orphanage, and we saw some things we're going to do there. But we're doing not only ministry in Zimbabwe with some local groups and organizations, Africa in general. We do a fair amount in Haiti.
Okay.
I've been involved in Haiti since 2011, and right after the earthquake there. And what we try to do in all of the ministries is do something that is going to be self-sustaining.
Okay.
That will, our mission statement is to make a global impact for the kingdom. And we want to make sure that whatever we do, it's not, okay, here's the orphanage, give them some food, or here's somebody, give them a handout. We want to either be training them, something self-sustaining. An orphanage, we might put in irrigation systems and crops. And I think that there's no doubt that what we've been able to do, and every time, there's no saying you can't outgive God. And I'm starting to find that that's true. Every time I give a little money, it's as if I get lots in return, and I say lots in return in terms of our customers. So, yeah, I guess what's still probably hard for me to grasp is that, in a simple terms, I say I was a poor kid from an area that I grew up with a bunch of kids called Dog Patch, and it was a very wonderful group. Still have great friends from there. I'm sure there are a few that'll check this out, hopefully. And remember, we all grew up in Dog Patch together. And we just, you just realize today you're sitting here, a number of years later. Like I said, I'm 37. Or did I say I'm 36? One of those. And
25.
25. And it's a little surreal, to be honest with you, that I'm sitting here talking to somebody from Zimbabwe. I'm actually at our house in Zimbabwe, and I'm trying to figure out, wow, how did this navigate? But God has bigger plans than we can even grasp, as it says in Ephesians 3:20. Bigger plans than we can possibly ask or imagine. And yeah, here I am today.
This is an incredible story. And Zimbabwe, I'm a Zimbabwean, and so much has been said about Zimbabwe. And you took this huge leap of faith to open a business in a country that has sanctions, has all these articles being written about it. So it shows your trust in God, that you trusted, He spoke, and you said, I'm going to take this leap. A lot is being said about this country, but I'm going to take this leap because God said so. And speaking of Zimbabwe, what was your impression prior to coming here? And now, years later, what is your impression of the people of Zimbabwe and the country as a whole?
Yeah, I don't think I didn't have any shell shock because I had been to places like Haiti in the past. But, and Haiti, by the way, is way, I don't want to say worse, but much poorer than say here. But what you saw immediately was the spirit of the people. I have yet to meet anybody in our organization I was reading something about, the old saying about if you don't have anything good to say, don't say anything at all. But it's also, is what you're going to say, as it says in Ephesians, is it going to build somebody up? Is it a word of kindness? And I've never seen any of that here, but it's more than that, Ruva. It's what embodies the spirit of the people that live here, the resilience, which is one of our core values. And it's one of our core values because we know people that are here, that they have this amazing resilience to get through tough times. And so when you know that the core of the people here are really good, then it's easy to invest your time and your money to grow it here. Because look, there's nobody here in Zimbabwe that doesn't know that they hear the word corruption, and they hear the word sanctions, and they hear the word poverty, and you hear all these things. But why are we not focusing on what's wonderful about the country? And our average age at our office is around 25 and a half or something like that. I think it's like 25.4 or something. And you're about of that same vintage, if you will. You're a little older than me, a couple of years older than me. But you also realize that, I don't say they don't care about their history, but they're ready to move forward. They see what the potential is. They know what it's like to have a good opportunity. And they just want opportunity. So quite honestly, our job, what God has planted on our heart, is let's bring 20,000 opportunities to Zimbabwe because, as you said, we've learned that it's about 5 people per family. So you work, you're part of our company and our group, and we know that you will affect probably 5 people in your family in one way or another. So even at 500, we're indirectly with 2,500, which I remember somebody just told me that on this trip, and I went, well, surely that's not right. It's Pastor Sam. And I said, oh, wow, that's kind of scary. Actually, it was kind of frightening because I thought that's a lot of responsibility. But think 20,000, that's 100,000 people. That's big. That's the same size as the town I grew up in Wichita Falls, Texas. So, phenomenal. But again, I have to say, this has nothing to do with me. I'm simply a vessel that God used to said, hey, I got a job for you. Everybody's got their own job. And don't be disappointed if your task is smaller. That's okay. Your task may seem small, but if God's put you there and you know it, then you're in the right spot too. So, yeah.
I love that. And what places do you like to visit in Zimbabwe? We'll start off with Harare, and then we can branch out of Harare.
Well, I get stuck in Harare. One thing is, stuck in a good way, the food is there's nicer restaurants than there are in Dallas, Texas, and we have nice restaurants, but you haven't seen anything what's here. Places like Victoria 22, which I love to go to, is it called the Wine Bar, which was next door, which is Lucas owns, and it's a great place. We pistachios.
They've got good food.
Yeah, I think I've been there. I do a lot of lunch meetings when I'm here. I think I've been here 9 out of 10 days already. So and maybe I need to be less consistent. But there's wonderful things to see, wonderful places to go. Wild as Life is kind of a little tucked in place by the airport that you do little afternoon or morning tours and see. You be right here in Harare and go to a little mini game drive safari, if you will, and see lions and giraffes and elephants and get a little cup of tea in the afternoon. So a lot to do right here in Harare itself. And, of course, our beautiful building downtown. We occupy the Joyner City, 19 floors. We're going to fill it up. So that's the beauty of it as well.
Incredible. And how many floors do you have right now at Joyner City?
We officially have 4. We're finished fitting out, if you will, the 4th. And then we'll have 2 more by the end of the year, which will put us at 6 floors total. But we do have a goal to utilize all 14 or 15 floors in Joyner and over about a next 3-year period.
Wow, that's great. I can't wait to see all these developments. And also outside of Harare, what do you enjoy about this country?
Wow. There's a number of places I haven't even been. And each time I say I'm going to do that, typically I've come with someone who hasn't been here before, whether it's one of our clients or a family member. My daughter came this last summer. My son came with me 4 years ago. But obviously Victoria Falls, one of the 7 natural wonders of the world. It's amazing. But it's not just Vic Falls. It's the little resorts and the little encampments along the Zambezi. It's just amazing what you can see there, and the night game drives, the day game drives, and we've even ventured. You can be right here, and my goodness, you can go to Botswana and Namibia and see some amazing things just right out of a central hub. But I actually haven't. I've done some things around here, Amiri north of here, and Pamazinda, I believe it is. I've been to a few places around. I still haven't made the Mana Pools. That's high on my list to go up to Lake Kariba, and we'll get that. And then up in the mountains, everybody says go to Troutbeck. I got to go see that one as well. So lots that I still need to do.
In terms of leadership style, what is your preferred leadership style? How are you as a leader? How do you lead your teams, your organizations?
Well, I'm still growing, and I'm surely. I don't even see myself as really a great leader. I may be a good leader. I don't see myself as a great leader. Initially you find yourself micromanaging. You find yourself thinking you need to be involved in everything. I'm just now at a point in my career where I'm understanding. There's a book called EOS, and the book called Traction. It's a system called Entrepreneurial Operating Systems, EOS, but the book is called Traction. And I read it early last year, and I've read it a couple of times now, and we implemented that into our organization. And it really says there's two positions in any company. You've got the visionary, and you have the integrator.
Okay.
Well, one of the mistakes I made and continue to make, which upsets a lot of people, and you got to trick back and get into your role, is I realized I'm the visionary, but I'm not the integrator. You know what, Ruva? I'm not even good at it. I mean, I'm really not good at it. But what I have to do is I find myself steering myself into the integrator role. But where I really need to be is what is the vision for the company? I need to set that agenda. I need to see it. I need to get the buy-in from our leadership team, and move forward there. But it's hard, and I'll have to say, I'm not equipped to run a company with 20,000, but God can. What does He say? He doesn't. What does that say? He doesn't find the equipped. He equips those He needs to work. There's some little saying that's better spoken than that than me. And I think that's right. You have to be open to let God work and to develop you in your skill sets, because I'm severely lacking in a bunch of those. I only find that when I open my mouth that I make a bunch of mistakes like that. My job really is to set the vision. People like to see me here, so I try to come often and spend time. And sometimes it's just walking around the floor to really say hello to people, and that's what I'm realizing my role is as a leader in the visionary aspect of it as well.
Very inspiring. And to add on top of that is you're very humble. For someone who's done so well, someone who's leading a huge team, you're very humble. Where has that humility come from?
God's humbled me a couple of times. Whenever I thought it was all about me, I like to tell people I've been humbly bankrupt back in the 90s, and that was when it was all about, look at me and all that JW can do. And I think God just said, buddy, this ain't about you. And when you really buy into Christ and you understand that He's in control, then you let that mature. And I love what it says in my favorite book. It's probably the book of James, and not because my name is really James, but because James. But James 1:2-7 says, I count it pure joy when I go through various trials, knowing the testing of my soul produces endurance. And wow, and you read the first part of that, I count it pure joy when I go through various trials. I'm like, no, that's all wrong, right? I'm going to count it joy when it goes my way. So I don't know that I can still fall into that sin of pride. We all do that. But I can fall into the pride. I can fall into the lack of humility.
A lot of leaders will treat the top management better than the appeal or those who are below. But with you, I've realized everyone is treated the same, really. You smile the same to everyone. You treat everyone with the same kindness. So that's something I think all leaders can learn from. And also, how has Christianity impacted your journey as an entrepreneur as well?
Yeah, kind of going back to what you said, probably the thing I find the hardest is when we had 9 people, I could go around and see everybody and talk to them and call them by name and how's your husband doing, call them by name. But now it's harder for me because I can see people that I know have worked there quite a long time, but because I'm only here 4 times a year or so at a couple of 2 or 3 weeks at a time, you just can't. And you're also working on projects and visions, and you're meeting with people and whatnot. But how has Christianity infected my life? Wow. I'll be honest with you. I thought about this the other day while I was here. I can't imagine trying to live my life without Christ. Interesting story. My oldest sister, I've seen her advance with her walk in Christ, and right now her husband has been struggling with an illness that's had him in the hospital for 3 or 4 weeks. But I've seen her strength and what she's developed. So I've seen it from the outside how her Christianity, her faith has developed and made her strong to be able to handle it. And I think that's an example of, I can't just imagine when something goes wrong that you don't have somebody that says, it's okay because I trust in God. He's got the best plan for me. Because I used to think I'll just fix it.
Okay.
But living under that grace, living under that understanding that, I'm reading the book, Brendan Manning, and it talks about, it's all about trust. And I think that's something hard for us is to trust. But I do. I mean, I have to say that's one area I've probably made great strides in my Christian faith is learning to trust.
Wow. And entrepreneurship is not easy. I think personally, I think it's easier to be an employee than to be a business owner or an entrepreneur. Your schedule is always so busy. How do you keep up with everything? How do you not burn out? Because I think if I got to see your calendar, it's just got every hour of every day there's something to be done. So how do you not burn out? How do you keep going? How do you not give up? Because I'm sure it's not easy. We all get to see you happy and smiling, but I'm sure there's times where it's really tough.
Yeah, I don't. Wow, that's always a difficult question because there's many times that I've thought I'd just like to be an employee. I'd like to be one of our team members. I can clock in at 8 o'clock. I can leave at 5 o'clock. I can go home, spend my weekends doing a hobby. My hobby is my work, but there's something that does make it different, Ruva, and that is God gave us a vision, gave me a vision, my partner a vision of what we were doing. And that vision was so big that I thought, first of all, I can't do this unless I trust God. Mm. And I guess I would say, and you're right. I mean, first of all, I've failed in more businesses than I've succeeded in. I mean, everybody likes to point to the ones you've successful, but they don't want to talk about all the ones you failed in. And I've got a longer list of failures in business than I do of successes in business. But I will say, in Matthew it says, don't worry about tomorrow because today has enough troubles of its own. And that's really how I operate my business life is I've got to deal with what's today. I need to deal with today's schedule. I can't be worried about that I need to be back to the U.S. tomorrow and in Phoenix on Monday and in Costa Rica in 2 weeks. I can't look and go, that's daunting because it would be daunting. So I really, it kind of goes back to the trust, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to deal with today. But let me also say, I'm surrounded by some amazing people. And when I say amazing people, you got to understand, we have just a couple of people that work in the U.S. Most everybody is here. I say a couple. I mean a couple like in three. And so most of our people are here. And I am fortunate, which everybody should get them some help, as I've learned that I need to delegate. And my goodness, between Clara, who is my executive assistant, and people who are in my business development, and people who run our marketing, and people like you who make sure my Facebook and my LinkedIn and all that, and we collaborate, and you understand my vision. But surrounding yourself with good people like that, and then I don't even want to mention all the management people here, from our chief of staff, which we love that name, by the way, chief of staff, to our accounting management teams that are all here, to our HR, to our recruiters. We just have really amazing people that are performing, and my job is to let them do their job and tweak it when they get to a path that I don't think is right. But so no, it again, I got to just worry about today.
That makes a lot of sense. I think I should learn that from you as well, because it's so easy to start getting consumed with what's coming next, what's going to happen next, and you often miss out on today because you're focused on tomorrow.
Amen.
So that's a very good point.
Well, let me add. I read. I don't remember the exact numbers, but I read of the things we worry about, something like 78% never happen. 14% have no effect on you individually. And I mean, literally, it was like 6% of the things you worry about actually happen. So, why spend time worrying about all those other ones when very little is going to affect you?
That's true. And I think as we grow and mature, we realize that these challenges, we overcome one challenge, then we overcome the next. So each time a new challenge comes, we keep being stretched and we get the ability to handle the challenge as it comes because you've overcome this challenge so that when the next one comes, you'll be able to overcome it. And I think that's how we should approach life because there's no way we're going to live a problem-free life. It's just
That's right.
Impossible.
Yeah.
Very impossible. And something that I found unique about ZimWorX is pastoral care. Why pastoral care? I had never heard of that prior to coming to ZimWorX.
Well, 3 years ago, I'd never heard of it. To be quite honest with you, I was actually at a breakfast conference in Dallas or South Lake. At Gateway Church has a really good organization for business leaders, and I was going to a breakfast. It was one of those where you had a speaker and tables of about 8 people. And during one of the breaks, there was a younger guy sitting next to me, and I said, "Hey, what do you do?" And he says, "Oh, I'm on the pastoral care team for Babe's Chicken." Well, Babe's Chicken is kind of like Chicken Inn or something here, or Nando's maybe, and it's just a restaurant. And I didn't realize there was a lot of other brands, and throughout all their brands, they have 2,000 people that were employed, 2,000 plus, by this Babe's Chicken. And I said, "Well, what do you do with them?" He said, "Well, I'm head of pastoral care." I said, "What in the world is that?" And he just told me. He said, "There's 5 of us. There was 4 or 5 of them," and he said, "We invest in the people, in each of our team members, emotional, their spiritual, their relational, their financial benefits, and we try to help them to find their place and to help them through those times." So it birthed our pastoral care team. We have 2 full time, and we've got 2 more that'll come on. At least 1 more that'll come on this year. Maybe the other one first next year. So it's wonderful, and I think our team loves it. We also are able to really embody our ministry through our pastoral care team. They're in charge of all of our local projects. As mentioned, we went to the orphanage today, and they really organize things where we can move those agendas forward as well.
I think it's unique and it's good, and I like how ZimWorX is trying to help other organizations in Zimbabwe to implement it as well, which is quite special too.
Yeah, last year our pastoral care team, I met with them and said, we run into people all the time that say, "You're doing what?" Here and at home in the U.S., we actually put an initiative out there that we wanted to expand it. We actually thought there would be 2 or 3 people show up to a meeting in December we had just 2 months ago. We invited 17 showed up, and these weren't small companies. These were some companies that had thousands of employees. Some of them had hundreds. But as of today, right now, all of those companies are wanting to implement it this year. So they came to the meeting, they heard about it, and then they said, "Yeah, we want to do it." So that's another thing. Incredible. Sometimes you may be looking at what you're doing, but it's bigger than that because now God is empowering us with other companies to expand that too.
Incredible. And I love the saying, behind every successful man is a woman. Who is the woman behind the successful man?
Yeah, I've been married for 28 years next month, and we've been together well over 28 years. And honestly, even though she's very much not involved in my business, I mean, at all, which is kind of a good thing. We don't a lot of husband and wives, they do different roles. But for me, it's nice because when we do have dinner, when we are together, although she probably says, shut up about the business, but she 100% supports me in what we do. In 28 years, she's never said, she has said, "Don't do that." And those are the businesses that failed. But she's never told me, and literally that's the truth. She goes, "That's a bad idea." And I didn't listen. Learned that one too. But in this one, she was 100% supportive. This one has involved a lot more travel here. She'll come with me usually twice a year. I'll come twice by myself. But she definitely is 100% supportive. And I'll tell you, and I believe it's in 2 Corinthians, talks about being unequally yoked. And that for sure is directed at your marriage. And I think I tell people all the time, it's very difficult for, let's say, a Christian and a Muslim to be married, or it's very difficult for people of different denominations, or a non-believer and a believer. And I think also within our business, it's exactly the same way.
You told me something interesting once about how you don't travel with other women in a car. What's that all about?
Yeah, I actually heard that. It came from our pastor. He talked about how he didn't put himself in a situation that could turn out bad. And I think, as I mentioned, my wife is a wonderful, wonderful wife, and I'm blessed to have her. And if you want to get to 28 years of marriage, and if you want to, our goal is way past that, then you need to protect that marriage. And a very simple thing that I implemented years ago is I said I was not going to travel in a vehicle with another. Now, I'm not talking about my mom or my sister or something, right? But even a friend. I mean, I wouldn't go. You and I wouldn't travel to Bulawayo together, or nor would I go from Dallas to Houston in a car with another woman, or even across town, because you may find yourself in conversations that you shouldn't be in, talking about your personal problems, which leads down the bad, down a very bad road. So I think it's not only doing that with your wife and those you love, and those who are close around you. As I say, it's kind of putting that hedge of protection around you, if you will. But it can just help keep the enemy out, so that you can build on those long-term relationships. And I know people will say that's kind of weird, and it's fine. If somebody wants to do something different, but me, I think just choosing a path that doesn't set myself up for failure. And again, we have an unbelievable amount of failed marriages in Zimbabwe too, right? It's not just the U.S. And so one solution is to look at things that you can do to improve your marriage. I'll add this. Most people go to marriage counselors when their marriage is in trouble. Our pastor suggested years ago, go see a counselor, a marriage counselor, when things are going well. So we've not been 100% consistent, but over the last probably 10 years, we try to go once a quarter to a marriage counselor. And it's funny, and we've had 2 or 3 different ones. We're doing one that's online now. She's fantastic, out in California. We meet with her usually every 6 or 8 weeks. But it's just a time you can think, our marriage is going perfect. And then your wife says, there's this one thing you do, and you go, well, I didn't know that bothered you, and then vice versa. So it's enabled Lori and I to really be intentional and be focused on the areas where I'm like, I didn't know. Like, I'll give you an example. I am the ultimate interrupter. My goal, Craig Groeschel said about habits, he said, just pick 1 or 2 and fix those. I think he said he does 1 at a time, and he's now done this for, I think he said 20 years, and he's got 20 new habits. And my 2 this year are to be on time to meetings. Okay. And that goes back to our earlier conversation. I tend to try to put too much together, and there's not enough time to travel. But the other thing is to quit interrupting. And I interrupt people in meetings, but it's because usually my mind has gone on to something else, and I'm like, okay, let's move on to the next subject. But interrupting my wife that's an unforgivable one, and I'm horrible at it, and she hates it. And honey, I'm trying to get better, I promise. But that's one I'm trying to work on. But look at those things around your marriage, as I mentioned about being unequally yoked. Definitely, it would be very difficult to say that if my wife was a strong believer and I wasn't, it would impose a lot of difficult circumstances around us.
Yeah, and I think the world has the wrong perception of marriage, because marriage is God's idea. And we see Adam was a standalone, and God thought Adam needed a helpmate. And in marriage, I believe, as my part at marriage retreat, 3 years later, you're going to this base camp hike 2 years later. So timing has been a huge thing and a huge part of your life. I'm sure God knows why it's been postponed to 2 years later as well. So I think in our trusting God, I believe there's a reason why you're going now.
Well, you kind of back on your Everest thing. I had somebody asking me at church here in Harare this last week, said, well, why would you want to do that? And I said, well, I don't know, because it was there. You hear that said, but I've got this little hashtag I like. It's do hard stuff. And hard stuff takes you out of your comfort zone. Sometimes I don't want to come to Harare. I'm at home. I've got my work all caught up. I'm with my wife, and I'm pretty comfy. And then I'm like going to Harare for 2 weeks, and that changes your time zones are different. But we've I did my first half marathon when I was, I think, 48. I was not. I'm still not a runner. I did my half marathon when I was 48. My wife and I did our first triathlon, an Ironman, a half Ironman. We did that when I was, I think, 49 or 50. I think I was 49. And we now those things don't seem so hard. We ran one about 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago, half marathon, and it was actually, I don't want to say easy, but I knew it to prepare what my mindset needed to be. We're doing another one in a couple weeks, so we've gone hiked across Peru. Took my son with me and a couple of friends, and so we were able to be gone 6 days. So to me, it's not so much as look at me, I went to Everest Base Camp, but it's doing something that gets you a little out of your comfort zone, so you can realize that I can go further. I can do more than I think I can do. So it's good to get that. I'm sorry, I interrupted there I go again. There's my goal, not to interrupt, and I interrupted you.
It was a good interruption. So what do you want to be remembered for? If you are 80 and we're looking back at this video, what do you want to be remembered for?
Really, there's a saying, and what did you do with the dash, right? You're born here and died here, and where's your dash? And I think it's what did you do in the dash? For me, it would probably to just be able to say, love Jesus, good husband, good dad, and the rest of it, let the world sort that out.
And what's your advice to anyone who wants to step out of their comfort zone, who wants to take that leap of faith? It's scary, but if we listen to your journey, stepping out of your comfort zone has come with such incredible results.
Yeah, I'd just say be prepared for, I don't even like to say failure, but a setback. John Maxwell wrote a book, which it's a great way to look at it, failing forward. And I think when you do fail, you need to fail forward and look up and say, okay, what did I do wrong there? How can I do it better this time? But I would say have no fear. Be fearless. I'm working on a project which you're aware of. It's a book project, and I don't have time for it, and I'm not really a writer, and I'm trying to figure out how to work that into my schedule. But you know what? I decided that 2022. Well, I originally decided like 2018 was the year, but that didn't work out. But this year is the year that I want to finish that up and put that project. So be fearless. But maybe it's more of listening to God.
As advice as well, how do you get things done? Because you get so many things done. You have so many meetings, so many things to do. How do you get yourself to get things done?
Well, first of all, you better be passionate about it. If I didn't love people like yourself, people of Zimbabwe, if I didn't love doing what I do, and we call it a win-win-win. A friend of mine, Rick Thompson, who's a pastor, we were years ago, it's 5 years ago now, when we were talking about how this could work. He came up with, he said, well, this is a win-win-win, not just a win-win. And I remember he said it's a win for the team member that's getting a job. It's a win for the client who's getting an excellent team member, and then it's a win for Christian Ministries because what we're doing with our donations and our giving back. But I just think that if you're not passionate about what you're doing, and if you're not just love what you're doing, you're probably not following God's precept for your life, because if you're not passionate about it, you're probably on the wrong road, because that's not fitting up with who you are. So, find your passion and just run with it. And then on the procrastination piece, you got to be passionate about it. You've probably read this before. Have you read that says Kiss the Frog? It says when you got 10 things to do on your day, pick the hardest one and do that first.
That's good.
Because if you don't, what do you do all day? You I need to, I need to do that hard one. I need to let that employee go. Or I need to have that hard conversation with my wife, or I need to do this. And so what you do is you keep putting it off, and then finally it's like, whoop, too late. I'll do it tomorrow. And all you do is sleep bad that night. So kiss the frog.
That's true. And we've left out another important lady as we conclude in your life, which is your mother.
Hmm.
What role has she played in your life?
Wow, she's emotional. You might get me emotional with that one. Yeah. I just, there's no doubt that, you go back to where I was at, growing up where we did. My mom had never worked when she got divorced. My father was in the military, the Air Force, enlisted, and we traveled. I was born in France, so we were all over. But mom had never worked since she was, I think her last job, she was 18. And that was gift wrapping gifts in a department store. So was not, didn't have a university education, didn't go to an Ivy League school. She got married right out of high school, like a lot of people did. Got fortunate to travel the world, saw a lot of places. But, honestly, my wife and I are able to today even assist my mom, and she'll just get teared up about it and say, oh, you shouldn't be helping me. I should be helping you. And I think, wow, what are you talking about? My mother is the one who put me where I am today. And if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be doing this. She might have just said, I don't have time to mess with you kids. I'll tell you this. I can't even remember when we missed church.
Wow.
And imagine trying to get 4 people and herself, so call it 5 people, ready for church every morning. And get them ready, get them dressed. We're all complaining, I'm sure, and got them to church. And there's no doubt that that's the reason my faith is where it is today, is because of that bedrock. And so you look across your life circumstances and you say, okay, I had a mother who got me to this point. And then I had a helpmate, my wife, who got me to this point. So you better evaluate the women in your life if you're a male, and probably if you're a woman, you need to evaluate the men in your life and look and see the importance of them. So I've got no greater respect for my mother. She's currently 86 years old. She's nuts. She travels. She's was just in a tap dance contest, and she loves to go dancing, and so she lives by herself. She hates to be home. She's always going somewhere. We've taken her to a lot of really cool places. She's going to come here. I'm trying to get her to come here in May with us, or maybe the next trip. So, yeah, I think thank you for asking that too, because my mother's very important to me.
And the Bible does say, honor your mother and father so that your days will be long. So I think you've done quite a great job of honoring her. And this is probably the end of our interview.